you all for coming out today because you're doing what voters all across this country need to do. You need to come out and listen, you need to learn, and then you go out and vote, right? And so you are the very best of our democracy because you're out there doing this. I want to thank Schneps Media for doing this and Politics New York because, again, they're creating this forum for you to hear what the candidates have to say. I want to also recognize our volunteers and our staff that are here because they make it real. So for you who don't know this, in Brooklyn at the June 2022 primary, 55% of all voters were 50 plus. And that tends to happen every time out. As a matter of fact, in many elections, it is over 65% of the voters who turn out are 50 plus. And that's why the issues that are most important for the 50 plus are the issues that we're going to be listening for today from these candidates who are willing to come out and speak to you and so you can understand where they stand. So I also just want to make sure you know that the 65 plus in New York has really grown. As a matter of fact, in the last decade with the census, the 65 plus right here in Brooklyn grew by 36%. There are now more people 65 and older here in New York State than there are 15 years old and younger. So again, what's important to you is what must be very important to the candidates. So I'm glad to be here today. ARP is so happy to sponsor this. And I just want to remind you of the issues that are most important. How can people afford to live in New York, right? Number one, when they retire, they're going to be on a fixed income. How are they going to do that? Livable communities. New York City is an age-friendly city. We're really pleased with that. We got to keep making it real. So have at it. I'm really glad you all came out today, and thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me all right? Everyone good? My name is Jada Camille. I am a reporter with Brooklyn Paper, and I will be moderating tonight's forum.
I'm Ethan Stark-Miller, the senior political reporter with AM New York Metro. I'll be keeping the time, so I'll be telling you all when your speaking time is up.
Just a reminder to be respectful tonight. Give each candidate their full time to respond, and there will be no cheering or jeering. You will have to silently agree or disagree tonight. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond to each question. This is a reminder that tonight is a forum and not a debate, so there will be no rebuttals. Again, each question will have 90 seconds to respond to each question with no responses. Ethan, again, will announce when your time is up, so just be listening for that, please. There'll be no audible timer, so just listen for Ethan. And to start us off tonight, each candidate will get 1 minute to introduce themselves. We'll start ourselves off with Amber Adler at the end, their candidate for the 48th Council District seat.
Hi. Hi, my name is Amber Adler. I'm the Democratic nominee for New York City Council District 48. It means a lot to me to be here tonight at a forum that's hosted by AARP. My grandmother was actually the biggest influence in my life. She passed a few years ago, but when she passed, we were already talking about me running for office, so this is sort of, I look at it as one of those full circle things that we planned together and we talked about together. So I'm very proud to be doing this in her honor. For the district, I'm here to keep people safe. I'm here to provide a better quality of life. I'm here to clean up the streets. I'm here to help all people get access to the resources that they deserve and in a timely manner. And with seniors, that timely manner is even more timely. I want everyone to know, if you know nothing else about me, that I genuinely mean what I say that I am going to do. And I genuinely am going to dig into all the issues that are the most important in the district, that have been neglected in the district, and that for too long people are suffering because they just haven't been responded to in a way that is dignified, in a way that is even...
That's your time.
I'm going to leave it with that word.
Thank you. And now, Ari Kagan, candidate for the 47th Council District seat.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Politics New York, Brooklyn Paper, ARP for hosting this important forum. I'm Ari Kagan. I came to America 30 years ago with my family. I'm a proud father of 2 wonderful children. I'm first-generation immigrant. I came with no English, no money, with a lot of hopes and dreams. I came to America legally with refugee status, and I went through all immigration procedures back in American Embassy in Moscow. I worked very hard. I studied at Baruch College, graduated with honors from Baruch College while working full-time and studying full-time. It is a privilege and honor of my lifetime to be elected and to work as a New York City Councilman in the 47th District. I'm living my American dream. I believe the most important priorities for me and for any elected official should be make sure that we are living in a safe city, clean city, quality of life,
Thank you.
and
That's
of
your
course,
time.
cost of living. And I'm asking for your support on November 7th. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now Ying Tan, candidate for the 43rd Council District seat.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Ying Tan. I'm a Republican nominee for running for City Council in District 43. I'm a mother of 2 beautiful children, and I'm a caregiver for the senior citizen in my community. And most importantly, I'm a concerned citizen willing to step in and improve the city of New York. I've been fighting for SSSAT and give them talented program, especially for the quality education, and also have been serving and volunteering in my community with the senior social services. I'm here to fight for public safety, quality of education, and to protect our senior citizens. As a first-generation immigrant, I'm proudly to call New York City my home. I will fight everything I can to protect my city and to let our next generation to remember this is not only our home, but they will remember with gratitude. Thank you so much.
Thank you, AARP, for putting this together. I also, is this on? Hello. And I want to thank AARP also for all your advocacy on protecting retiree health care. It's very meaningful and important to have you on board, so thank you very much for helping us. I'm Councilman Justin Brennan. I currently represent Bay Ridge in the City Council. I'm also chair of the Council's Finance Committee. Since being elected, I brought back over $250 million in investments to the community in the form of investments in parks and playgrounds, schools and libraries. I'm a public school kid, currently building 6 new schools here just in District 20 to help relieve overcrowded classrooms. Grew up here in Bay Ridge, so being able to represent the neighborhood where I grew up and to invest in the very parks and playgrounds and schools that I grew up going to is a very, very meaningful thing to me and something that I want to continue doing. Oftentimes, the further you are away from City Hall, the less attention you get. And I think folks in the outer boroughs deserve the best. And that's why I look forward to being reelected on November 7th. Thank you.
All righty, and now we will jump into questions. Again, everyone will have 90 seconds to respond to each question, and we'll change the order of, who gets to go first. Starting off. Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. We'll put it on the ground. All righty, starting off. The average rental pricing increased by 13.05% compared to rent prices last spring, making the need for affordable housing even more dire. What role would you play in making sure New Yorkers have access to affordable housing options? Brandon, will you start it also?
Sure. Thank you, Jada. Rent stabilization is one of our biggest forms of affordable housing here in Bay Ridge. We don't have a ton of development here, so making sure that folks can stay in their rent-stabilized apartments becomes even more crucial. It gets harder and harder to develop because a lot of times people oppose development, but we've got a simple supply and demand problem here in the city of New York and certainly in southern Brooklyn, where the less housing stock we have, the more expensive the housing stock that exists is going to be. But when you build affordable housing, you have to make sure it's actually affordable. And the thing I think about is the folks who build the housing, the laborers who actually physically build the housing. If they can't afford to live in the housing when it's finished, then it's not affordable. So I think you have to have a conversation around who is it affordable for, and certainly in the scope and the lens of tonight with seniors, making sure that the seniors who help build our city, literally and figuratively, can afford to stay in their neighborhood and live and retire in dignity and not have to move to New Jersey or to Florida. It's a big priority.
Tan, you can now respond to the same question.
Okay, so affordable housing is very important, but we have to make sure that all these contractors come down here is not only building a luxury apartment right here, but is affordable housing also. Like in my district, District 43 is a residential community. Mainly is 1 or 2 family houses right here. If we need to build the affordable housing right here, we have to go through the rezoning process. And we have to need the community board to spread out the news to the community, and we have to hear the voices of our community, whether they want it or they don't want it. And the second one is we could convert the empty commercial building into the residential building right here, because this one can save time, can save the money, and less impact to the community. The next one I want to talk about is right now, because of the landlord law right here in New York City is not protecting our homeowners. Many homeowners, they are struggling with all these laws. For example, the bad thing is they don't pay for the rent, and they don't damage the apartment. They also are abusing our homeowners. Meanwhile, homeowners have to pay for the mortgage, they pay for the taxes, and they pay for all this maintenance fee, especially very expensive legal fee services right here. And that's why in result, many of homeowners, they refuse to rent out their apartment. They just keep it empty. And if we want to solve this problem, oh, sorry.
Kagan, you can now respond.
Yeah.
Thank you. So first of all, I believe that we need to make sure that our affordable housing stays affordable, and that's why very often I'm voting no on many proposed bills in New York City Council, and sometimes, unfortunately, my colleagues are making life in New York City much more tougher and less affordable. And one of the prime examples, for example, my opponent voted for Local Law 97. That creates a huge problem for all co-op and condominium owners who are will be paying exorbitant maintenance fees. In some cases, probably will double or maybe even more, because all of these condominiums and co-ops cannot even afford all of these things that were inside this Local Law 97. I'm strongly opposing to this Local Law 97. I believe it's creating a lot of unaffordability, especially for renters and co-op residents, which is a lot in our 47th district. Also, I represent a lot of NYCHA buildings, especially in Coney Island and Marlboro houses. And I see here my wonderful staff, very diverse staff that speaks 9 languages, by the way. So about 50% of their time is dedicated to help NYCHA residents, because right now NYCHA stock is in such a terrible condition. I introduced a legislation, NYCHA Accountability Act, which makes NYCHA property managers accountable if they ignore tenants' complaints. And finally, I always voted and will continue to vote against any property tax increases in New York City. Unlike my opponent, I strongly believe our property taxes are so high that we need to cut them.
Excuse me, that's time. Thank you. Reminder to please keep your cheering and jeering to a minimum, as in none, please. Thank you. Just we have an hour, so we want to get through our questions. Adler, you may now answer the question.
Great. I live in a rent-stabilized apartment. I live in a rent-stabilized apartment in this district for 13 years. I got my first rent-stabilized apartment in Manhattan, New York, when I was 19 years old. I just turned 40. And it happens to be that rent-stabilized apartments, I know them. I know all the rules. I know what you can do, what you can't do, the problems, the this, the that. And it is what keeps people in their homes when there's an emergency. It's what keeps people able to afford life and not just scraping by. I personally believe that affordable housing is only affordable if an apartment isn't rented for more than 1 week's worth of average salary. To me, that's how you live and not just how you survive. New York City as a whole isn't really about just one district. It's about us all. And if we're not clicking together and working together to demand such things that are really affordable, that we can genuinely not just survive on, but thrive on. It's a little cliche, but that is what it takes for us to get ahead. And that is what we deserve as New York City residents and really as Americans. So that is how I relate to this question the most.
Thank you. Next question. AARP is updating the data and their livability index, which scores neighborhoods and communities across the U.S. for the services and amenities such as housing, transportation, and health. What are some of the challenges in your district, and how will you use your position on the City Council to make the neighborhoods in your district more livable for residents of all ages? Tan, if you'll start us off this time.
Okay, so I will think about the senior citizen right here in my district. We have a lot of senior citizens who are living on the fixed income. They are the middle class. They are the municipal retirees. Unlikely those who are receiving entitlement services, they receive all these SNAP, Medicaid, and all other benefits. But however, our retirees who has no entitlement services are struggling with the inflation. They have to pay for the food, the mortgages, and the medical bills, and more likely they are not qualified for the long-term care and senior day care services. And if I am here, I want to help our senior citizens with the medical, the retirees who are not receiving the entitlement services. They have more senior day care in the community that is run by the city, that they can have a place to go. They can have activities and they have food to eat right there. And also, if I'm elected, I want to protect our municipal retirees because I know the city has been proposing to change their retirees' healthcare plan. I want to protect them and make sure that their healthcare plan will not be changed. And because they have been sacrificed their whole life right here in the city, contributing to our city, they deserve the healthcare plan they deserve. And I will protect them from that. Thank you.
Councilmember Kagan, your turn.
Thank you. I'm riding buses and trains every single day. I'm coming to City Hall tomorrow on our train, so I know a little bit about trains and buses. So I feel that right now MTA is one big dark hole where all this money going with no accountability, no responsibility. Like just this year, New York State Legislature voted to increase almost double an MTA mobility tax. Now we just learned about increase of fares and tolls. No longer $2.75, now it's $2.90. I can show you like my Metro card. You know, I use subways and buses every single day. So not just for pictures like my opponent doing, but that's beside the point. So I can tell you that public transportation needs in a total overhaul, especially bureaucracy. We don't need MTA and TA. President and 5 vice presidents of MTA, president and 5 vice presidents of TA. Look at the bureaucracy. Look, like I've worked for 2 city controllers. I know every audit shows so much bureaucracy, so much waste in MTA. I cannot even start. And when they're coming to City Hall and telling me, oh, we need more money, starting January will be congestion pricing that my opponent supports. $23 to enter Manhattan, give me a break. How does it help seniors who need to go to medical appointment? When my mother needed to go to Sloan Kettering Center, God bless her memory, because she had cancer, her driver who came with her didn't pay $23 just to enter Manhattan. What's going to happen right now? Oh, we need this exemption and this exemption. I'm totally against congestion pricing. That's another
That's your
tax on
time.
hardworking
Thank
New
you.
Yorkers.
Ms. Adler, your chance to respond.
And in general, we need to stop nickeling
Excuse me,
and
that
diming
is
New
your time.
Yorkers.
Thank you. Ms. Adler.
I didn't hear the question in its entirety, and I don't want to speak to the wrong point.
AARP is updating the data and their livability index, which scores neighborhoods and communities across the U.S. for the services and amenities such as housing, transportation, and health. What are some of the challenges in your district, and how will you use your position on the City Council to make the neighborhoods in your district more livable for residents of all ages?
Yes, I'm also going to speak to transportation on this one specifically. There is a lot going on. In District 48, there is a lot of cars, but there are a lot of residents that depend on public transportation. And it's very typical that you don't just take a bus or a train. You need to take both a bus and a train. And right now, there is a threat to some of the bus stops in the area, particularly when it comes to the southern portion of the district. And this removal of these bus stops would make it very hard on the many, many seniors that live in these areas to get to all their doctor's appointments, to get to all their everyday shopping, and, all their basic needs. It's quality of life. And I personally oppose the cut of any of the bus stops, and I would like to really increase transportation in the area and have already been speaking with different people about this. Additionally, right now, I think this will fall under transportation. We have a really big problem on the sidewalks. Anyone that is a pedestrian or a senior that needs to cross the streets, we have a huge problem with illegal Vespas, motor scooters, people riding recklessly on the sidewalks, and it is really getting to a crazy point. In one morning, half of a day, I almost got hit by a bicycle on the sidewalk, a motor scooter, and then an SUV that wanted to use the sidewalk to put their groceries right into their building from the sidewalk. So we have a big problem with this, and that is something I will fight.
Thank you. Next question. You all sort of mentioned, I apologize. Yes, thank you.
I hear a lot of complaints from my opponent, but no record of results. So it's important, I often say, you can tell me what you care about, but if I want to really know what you care about, I want to know what you spend your money on. So this year when we voted on the budget and we put over $400 million towards senior services, my opponent voted against that. Nicole Malliotakis and I don't agree on much. However, we worked together to build a 21,000 square foot senior center that's going to open up next month here in Bay Ridge. Bay Ridge has been a NORC for a long time, a naturally occurring retirement community. But it's important that we live up to that and we make sure we're investing in our seniors. 86th Street just got an elevator. Now we're working on an elevator on 95th Street. Putting our money where our mouth is important. It's great to hear a lot of complaints, a lot about what I would do, I'm showing you what I've already done as your councilman and what I will continue to do as your councilman.
Thank you for that. Next
I have to
question.
respond. He mentioned my name. I have to respond.
There will be no rebuttals and any responses. Thank you. Ageism permeates all aspects of life for New York residents, from ageism in the workplace, how we design streets and public transportation systems, to how services are promoted and accessed, to our built environment and more. What is one ageism issue that has an impact on your community, and how would you address it? Councilmember Kagan, you'll start us off.
Thank you. I would like to respond to my opponent. He voted for $1.4 billion for migrant services. I voted against it. He did not allocate this.
Can everyone in the audience please keep it down?
I'm the only candidate in this
Councilmember
race that
Kagan.
endorsed by Organization
Councilmember
for
Kagan.
Municipal Retirees. Why they
Councilmember
endorsed me? Not him?
Kagan, we're not doing rebuttals. We're answering the questions.
Okay. But I'm saying,
That's not the format that we're following.
Okay.
I understand, but that is not the format of tonight's forum. It is simply them responding to the questions. There will be another opportunities to hear that. Again, no rebuttals, folks. You can proceed
Thank
with
you.
your time.
I'm saying you need to own what you voted for. So you voted for this budget, so you have to own this.
Yeah, and you voted
Billions of dollars
against the
for migrant
budget. You
services.
voted against the
Hey,
budget.
folks.
You voted against $400 million
Excuse
in
me,
senior services.
Councilmember. No responses.
go on.
No responses. No responses. There will be no responses. Ageism permeates all aspects of life for New York residents, from ageism in the workplace, how we design streets and public transportation systems, to how services are promoted and accessed, to our built environment, and more. What is one ageism issue that has an impact on your community, and how would you address it?
I proudly represent Coney Island. During the Superstorm Sandy, I helped so many people with all possible issues. I can tell you that Coney Island needs a lot of investments, but when we invest billions of dollars into migrant services, unfortunately, we don't have a lot more to invest into our aging sewer systems. And we saw a few days ago what was going on in New York City with flooding. And also last year, I hosted hearings in City Hall, inviting all commissioners, and we talked about our aging infrastructure, and I told them that we need to invest much more. I'm not a prophet, but that's exactly what happened, that we need much more investments into our aging infrastructure. I also would like to add that some of the legislation that my colleagues are promoting, I already mentioned Local Law 97, supposedly to help environment, but by the end of the day, it hurts so many renters, co-op residents, homeowners, everybody in New York City, so it squeezes people out of New York City. So we need to protect environment, no question about that. But we also need to do it in a way so it will not squeeze people out of New York City completely.
Thank you. Ms. Adler, your chance to respond. Ms. Adler, yes.
When I think of ageism, I think a lot of experiences that I've watched my own mother and grandmother go through as they got up towards retirement age, and they were no longer given the amount of work that they could do. My mother actually just retired this year from nursing. She spent over 45 years as an RN, and she wanted to keep working, but because of her age, she was getting less work, and she was in home health care at this moment. And because of other issues going on with my stepfather passing this summer, though she could do her work, a lot of things verbally were said to her that, you know, for your age, maybe you should go ahead and just retire. And I don't believe that people should be forced into retirement. And I don't think it's morally, ethically acceptable to look at people by a number on their birth certificate and say, that's all you're capable of at that number. And I'm gonna fight against that every step of the way, and I'm gonna protect seniors, and their most vulnerable moments, really with every fiber in me. I'll leave it at that.
Councilmember Brannan?
I think one of the biggest issues that we encounter with ageism is the digital divide. I think in an increasingly digital world, there's a whole generation of folks who helped build the city that are shut out. Certainly something we fought years ago was the removal of bus schedules, printed bus schedules, which might not be a big deal to you and me, but it's a big deal to seniors who don't have smartphones and rely on a printed bus schedule. So I think it's easy for us to overlook that, but I think the digital divide is important, and I think investing in organizations that help close that divide is something that we can't overlook. And certainly throughout COVID, where you saw the exchange of information on social media, whatever it may be, that a lot of seniors are shut out of, who are just basically watching the regular 247 Channel 9 news. So I think it's something that policymakers need to look through that lens constantly. When they're thinking about legislation for seniors or programs for seniors, you have to be thinking about the digital divide.
Thank you. Ms. Tan, your turn.
Okay, so when you talk about transportation and also the safety for our senior citizens, I would think about, like Amber just mentioned, the illegal mopeds and the e-bikes right here on the street. As we are aware that there are a lot of illegal mopeds and also the e-bikes are recklessly driving on the street that are causing, thank you. And this is very dangerous for children, also for our senior citizens who are walking on the street. I know that our NYPD has been working so hard to track down all these illegal mopeds and the e-bikers, and also the Department of Fire has been working so hard to check on these e-bike stores to check if they're under regulation. However, in reality is the illegal mopeds and also e-bikers are everywhere on the street right now. And if I'm elected, I would like to build up more strong laws to enforce the illegal mopeds and the e-bike on the street. And we have to make sure that all these people who are not licensed and have insurance to ride on the street will be penalized. And also, thank you. And also we need to educate all these drivers and all these e-bikers to know how to drive safely on the street. And we also need to provide them more resources and education on how to protect and prevent to overcharge the battery and causing all these fires. Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. Before reading the next question, could everyone just take a couple moments to make sure your phone is silent so the candidates are not interrupted? Thank you. Next question. Here we go. Funding for quality health care in Southern Brooklyn remains a great concern to residents throughout the area. How would you use your platform in the City Council to connect residents with quality, cost-efficient care? Ms. Adler, you will begin us off.
Thank you. I do have a bit of professional experience in matching people to quality health care. In my experience working actually as the director of marketing for an autism service provider, I encountered far over 1,000 people within just a few months of taking that position who didn't have the proper health care they needed for their children to receive in-home autism services. And what I learned from that position was how to find appropriate health care that did exist that would cover at least the services you needed most. Now, that's a quick fix that constituent services can try to mix and match, tell people when the marketplace is open, and then say, listen, you might not get it all right now, but this year, let's see what's the most important, and let's take that until we got a better solution. And realistically, that's the real answer, I guess, on the quickest thing. But apart from that, I do support healthcare. You know, my mother, as I noted, she was a nurse, and I've watched really the loss of life that happens because people don't have quality health care. And the thing that I would do, I would always be supporting the best policy and being involved in the conversations. Do I think that I would spearhead a policy in City Council? I don't know if I am the perfect person for that, but I know I'm the perfect person to lend a hand and insight in other ways, particularly as I just noted in what I do have exact experience in doing. Thank you.
Councilmember Brennan?
Sure. Healthcare is a human right, and I think people shouldn't have to rely on GoFundMe pages or raising money for, to save someone who's struggling with cancer. Making healthcare more affordable is certainly something that we all support, I think. Locally, it's important to do what you can, right? As a city council person, you don't have a lot of control over what goes on in Washington, but you can get things done, such as what I've done, which is help bring a brand new emergency department here to Bay Ridge and Maimonides Emergency Department. Also attracting NYU and New York Presbyterian to set up offices here so that seniors don't have to travel so far for their care. The idea is that you want people to get the care that they need in their own backyard, that they don't have to travel to Manhattan for world-class care, that they can get care here, and also making sure that people are connected to the various programs that are out there that do provide some relief for those healthcare costs. It's a huge issue. I think certainly through COVID, you saw the real disparity between the haves and the have-nots, the folks who had good healthcare coverage and the folks who got left behind. And I think it's a shame on this country. I think healthcare should be universal and affordable for everybody.
Ms. Tan?
Okay. Healthcare is very important to everyone here in the world. I believe that. As I just mentioned, I provide social senior services to our citizens in my community, and I help a lot of seniors who have entitlement services. As I just mentioned, seniors with entitlement services, they receive Medicaid, and Medicaid covers their all medical bills. However, senior citizens who are not receiving entitlement services do not receive the full coverage with the medical coverage. For example, I just mentioned that the retirees who are covered 80% by Medicare, but the rest of them, they have to purchase another insurance to cover that. And the city, I just mentioned a while ago that the city has been trying to change the healthcare plan for our municipal retirees. This is not fair because they have been working their entire life to have a lower pay, but the promise with the healthcare plan after they retire. And if they change the healthcare plan, they have to switch the doctors. And some of the prescription, they are not covered, and they have to pay very expensive copay to cover the prescription. And this is impact for our quality of life, and this is increase the burden of our municipal retirees. And that's why I believe that the city should not change the healthcare plan for municipal retirees. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Kagan?
Thank you. I lost my father, my mother, my mother-in-law, and my older sister to cancer. So I visited too many hospitals in New York City and spent too many hours, and also many rehabilitation centers, nursing homes. So every time I hear that union bosses saying, oh, okay, your Medicare is not so good, let's switch to Aetna, to people who spent decades building this city, providing safety, working as firefighters, police officers, nurses, librarians, teachers. It's unconscionable to me, so I'm very proud to support our municipal retirees. I'm very proud to be endorsed by New York City Organization for Municipal Retirees. And even more important, I stood with them since day one. I did not wait till the last moment, last week before election, to co-sponsor some kind of legislation so they will feel like it's good. Also, it's very important for me. I have a large public hospital in my 47th district, Coney Island Hospital. Now it's called South Brooklyn Health. In the last 2 years, in total, I was able to allocate $700,000 for many important programs and divisions there, including hematology and oncology center. And I'm proud to support Coney Island Hospital in many different ways, and we'll do it all the time. I saw how it was destroyed during the Superstorm Sandy and plays a vital role in our communities.
Thank you. Next question.
Just want to remind everyone, please, keep the clapping and cheering to a minimum, just so we can, keep it moving and stick to time.
All righty, next question. Public transportation, one of the city's most used resources. It's often aligned with quality of life concerns, from public safety and timeliness to cleanliness and accessibility. Parts of Brooklyn have to wait nearly 20 minutes for trains and buses to arrive. Excuse me. Some parts of Brooklyn have to wait nearly 20 minutes for trains and buses to arrive. Some stations are left without elevator access, while parts of southern Brooklyn have limited stations altogether. How do you plan to address the need for quality public transportation? Councilmember Brannan, you'll start us off.
Thank you. This is another tough one because the city doesn't have much of any control over the MTA except for the bully pulpit. However, it's important to advocate for what the district needs in a transit desert like Bay Ridge, Southern Brooklyn, Coney Island, and making our transit system accessible, not just to seniors, but to moms with baby strollers, to folks who are living with disabilities. Making our transportation system accessible is just as important as it is making it reliable, which is why we fought to get the 86th Street elevator put in, and now we've got an elevator coming in at 95th Street. And also doing what you can in the city council to work around the MTA. What I did was work with the New York City Ferry and EDC to bring an express ferry to the 69th Street Pier, which can now get you from Bay Ridge to Lower Manhattan in 20 minutes. There's no other way to get to Lower Manhattan in 20 minutes from Bay Ridge that I'm aware of. But I think at the same time, it's about advocating to make sure that the MTA pays attention to Southern Brooklyn, and you can do that. That can get done. You just have to make a lot of noise, and you have to be in a position of power where people actually answer your phone call, unlike my opponent.
Ms. Daniel.
Okay, so, can you repeat the question again?
Yes, I can repeat the question. Public transportation, one of the city's most used resources, is often aligned with quality of life concerns, from public safety and timeliness to cleanliness and accessibility. Parts of Brooklyn have to wait nearly 20 minutes for trains and buses to arrive. Some stations are left without elevator access, while parts of southern Brooklyn have limited stations altogether. How do you plan to address the need for quality public transportation?
Okay, of course. In my district, the N train has been a huge issue with the skipping all these lines because of the construction. We definitely need to have more accessible to different train stations, so our senior can take the trains, and also with the parents who have the stroller, they get access to the train as well. And another concern for the trains is the cleanness, because right now we have a lot of homeless people actually sleeping on the train, and we have a lot of garbage on the train. So we definitely need to work with sanitation and also Department of Transportation to work on this issue and to make sure that we could have a safer train right here to provide to the community. And also we, yes, yeah. Yeah, I'm done.
Thank you. Councilmember Kagan?
Thank you. Talking about who is responding to whose phone calls, when I learned that MTA is planning to shut F-train for the more than 6 months, I did not wait for any kind of excuses. I called Assemblyman Alec Brooke-Krasny, who is a Republican, State Senator Jessica Scarcella-Spanton, who is a Democrat, and we wrote a joint letter from 3 elected officials to MTA saying that it is completely unacceptable to leave southern Brooklyn, Coney Island, and other neighborhoods without F-train for such a long time. And guess what? They responded and provided shuttle bus. And as I told you, I'm using the shuttle bus myself, riding on it. So they responded to my phone calls, okay? Also, I strongly believe that public transportation, I agree with you completely. It's not just like they have to come on time, though I believe B36 on Coney Island, 40 minutes wait sometimes. You have to wait when they go on Surf Avenue. You have to wait for 40 minutes sometimes, which is completely unacceptable. But you know it not only from phone calls, but if you actually ride on B36. But coming back to the situation, also safety situation, and also even bathrooms. I learned today that I was ridiculed by my opponent for trying to open public bathrooms in subway system, in specifically on Coney Island subway station. You know what? I'm very proud that people, especially seniors, can use public bathrooms in New York and subway system, including on Coney Island subway station. And finally,
That's your time. That's your
Okay.
time.
Thank you.
Ms. Adler?
So you asked the question, and then I had about 10 different answers in my head, because there's so much. So I'm going to try to sort of pop a lot of these things through here. Okay, number one, there should definitely be an elevator at every subway station. I don't think anyone can possibly disagree with that. It's just about how are we implementing that, you know? I'll give tons of reasons, but I got more stuff. Also, a public transportation should be affordable. I'm going to continue to support the senior ticket discounts. That's important. Also, low-income train tickets. This is something I very much support. I believe we should be removing all the old paint that is potentially lead paint from the train stations, the overpasses in Brighton Beach, also in Kings Highway area. Some of that actually just falls onto the outdoor fruit and vegetable stands. That's a big quality of life issue and health issue. I support more transportation funding to seniors for the door-to-door services because seniors rely on these door-to-door, like accessoride type services to actually get to their doctors when transportation just sort of isn't cutting it. Because when you're sick, you really can't do the bus to the train to the walk to this. I support that. Also, fighting back against the proposed casino in the neighboring District 47 is something I plan to be doing because transportation-wise, that is going to flood the streets of not just 47, but 48 and all of southern Brooklyn. We definitely can't take it as an infrastructure. We definitely can't take it even, I think last week the article came out, the Coney Island ground is sinking faster than anywhere else.
That's time. Thank you. Next question.
No casino in Coney Island.
One growing concern for
No
Brooklynites.
casino in Coney Island.
No casino.
Thank you. One growing concern for Brooklynites is the proliferation of mopeds. Candidates, can you hear me?
No.
One growing concern for Brooklynites is the proliferation of mopeds and e-bikes. Though there has been a citywide crackdown, residents are still seeing a rise in speedy racers that pose a threat of safety. What action would you like to take in the City Council to make sure pedestrians, bikers, and drivers can coexist safely? Ms. Tan, you'll begin.
I think I just mentioned that a while ago. Yeah. So this is never enough because this is ongoing issue actually infecting every one of us right here. And every time I walk on the street, and especially like one night I walk on 86th Street with my husband, one illegal moped just run across the street in front of me. It almost hit us. And it is not safe at all. So I believe that we need to have a strong law to regulate and make sure that all these illegal mopeds will be gone on the street and make sure that they are licensed and they have insurance, because whenever like things happen, who is gonna responsible for all these things? Because they don't have insurance, who we gotta get the coverage for, right? So we have to make sure that they are licensed, and we have to regulate all these e-bike and the illegal mopeds. Thank you.
Councilmember Kagan?
Thank you. So I'm proudly co-sponsoring right now. It's pending legislation in New York City Council to register every e-bike, and every e-bike should be registered, should be insured, and we need to treat everyone in New York City equally. I know that my opponent believes that if you have higher income, you have to be punished several times. But I do not believe in it. I believe that everybody in New York City who breaking even existing rules should be punished equally. Same crime, same punishment. And that's why we have a powerful lobby that is fighting against any kind of regulation of e-bikes or bicycles or anything like this. Only like we need to punish only drivers of cars, nothing else. But again, there is a pending legislation, more and more co-sponsors. I'm co-sponsoring this legislation to register every e-bike, to provide insurance for every e-bike, and to make sure that everybody is safe on a sidewalk and everybody is held accountable if they just riding on a sidewalk like it's in the middle of the highway.
Ms. Adler. Folks, we got a couple more questions we want to move through. Ms. Adler, your chance.
Okay. Yeah, this is definitely a popular topic. Okay, so I'm going to address this a little bit differently now since we sort of talked about it a little bit. As a car crash survivor, I was in a car crash in 2016. I seem fine and dandy now, but really, I had herniated disc, nerve damage, post-concussional, all from being T-boned. I was in a car, by the way, and another car hit me. Now, why am I saying this? Why am I? Good call. Injuries take time and money to fix. And if someone gets hit as they're walking down the street by someone who is illegally riding their Vespa or motorcycle or whatever they have on the sidewalk, you know, what's happening with the bill there? There's a lot of different ifs and ands and this and that, but there's a lot of caps on how much money you can even get when you're hurt, even though you lose a lot of money. There's caps in this state, actually. If you don't have a physical mark, you can only get up to $25,000 in a lot of cases, even though you might lose a year of work. So we need to enforce the laws we have on the books now, because you're literally not even allowed to do it right now, but it's not being enforced. And then we need to have an insurance on these bikes. We need to have only legal bikes. And again, we have to enforce these rules. We have to keep people off at all costs. We have to keep people on these motorized vehicles off the sidewalks to protect everyone, and especially seniors who are the most vulnerable.
Thank you. Councilmember Brennan.
Sure. Sidewalks are for people. They're not for bicycles or for mopeds. And as Amber said, riding a moped or a scooter on a sidewalk is illegal right now. Enforcement is a challenge. You can't have a cop on every corner catching every guy riding a moped. And I would agree with my colleague Ying and Amber that the way to do it properly is to work with the state to make sure that mopeds and scooters have to have license plates and insurance, just same way that any kind of vehicle has. And I was happy to see my opponent finally sign on to that bill that I sponsored a long time ago. But working with the state is really the way to do it, because it has to be done through the DMV. DMV is the only one that can license or make a vehicle have a license plate or insurance. So working with your partners in the state is the way to really do it.
All righty. This will be the last question of the evening, folks. Last question. Climate change opens the discussion on if city, excuse me. Excuse me. Climate change.
Safety. Are we going to discuss public safety today?
Excuse me. Last question. Thank you. Candidates, can you hear me?
Folks, please let Jada ask the questions. Thank you.
Climate change opens the discussion on if city infrastructure is strong enough to withstand increased rainfall, higher temperatures, and lowered air quality. We saw this just last week when flash floods completely suspended resources, leaving some residents helpless or even stranded. What are you doing to make sure the city is prepared for similar future extreme weather events? To begin us off will be Councilmember Kagan.
Yeah, I already answered this question previously. I talked about what happened few days ago. If you don't mind, I will spend my time talking about public safety. I believe it's very important for seniors. It's very important for seniors.
Could we please stick to answering the questions that we're asking?
I already answered this question. Public safety. I already answered this question before. I talked about this issue before. So, talking about public safety,
If we
I
could
believe it's
please,
crucial
if we
for...
could please stick to the topics. Thank you.
The topic is seniors, correct? Seniors?
No, the topic is the question that Jada just asked you.
I already answered this question before. I would like to talk about public safety for
We're sticking
seniors.
to the topic.
I already talked about it.
I
I
don't.
already answered this question.
You will have 60 seconds for closing statements, so you can add whatever you want then. Right now, you can respond to the question I
already
just
responded
asked.
to this question.
We'll then respond to it again, please. Thank
Can I-
you. Would you like to pass? Would you like to
Okay.
pass?
I strongly believe that public safety is crucial for seniors. That's I believe.
Alrighty.
Critical.
Ms. Adler, your chance to respond to the question I previously asked. You will have 60 seconds for a closing statement.
So I can finish?
Not right now. It'll be Ms. Adler.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take my little turn here. All right, so I think we all do understand very clearly that we have a problem right now with infrastructure when it comes to just tackling climate change in a period of years, but also the immediate threat of climate change. And that comes down to we need better drainage systems, and this is the immediate stuff we need. And I'm going to note that sometimes climate change does actually impact public safety, and that is something I'm going to note, because what happens when we have a real crisis and we can't get the things that we need? We all know. It gets like we're fighting over toilet paper, and it's the pandemic. You know, we have to make sure that we take care of this stuff now and plan and prevent, or we have a far bigger problem later.
Councilmember Brandon?
Sure. It's wild to me that there's some people that still don't think climate change is real. You're seeing storms now that are...
Rein it in, rein it in. Give the council member his time, please. Thank you.
You're seeing storms now that are much stronger and much more frequent. And the real problem with our infrastructure is that you got city sewers that most of them are over 100 years old and made with brick. And these sewers are designed to handle 1.5 to 2 inches of rain an hour. Any more rain than that, and you're going to have a problem. And now you're seeing storms on a regular basis that are giving us 3-4 inches of rain per hour. The city's infrastructure cannot handle it, which is why I worked with EDC to secure $51 million to improve the sewers in Dyker Heights. City council members have to take action. It's one thing to point fingers and say this and that's a problem, but your job is to take action. And renovating and refurbishing the sewers in Dyker Heights was something that needed to be done 20, 30 years ago, but it's getting done now. But this needs to be done across the city because this needs to be done. Infrastructure improvements need to be done. Whether or not you believe climate change is real is irrelevant, but it's having a real effect. You're seeing the city get shut down because of a rainstorm, and it's not safe for anybody. So I think the first step is admitting to yourself that climate change is real.
Ms. Tan, your chance to respond. Rein it in,
Okay.
folks. Thank you.
Okay, so District 43 was like heavily flooded
Excuse me.
last week.
Excuse me. Thank you, folks. Go ahead.
Okay, so District 43 was heavily flooded last week because of the heavy rain. And I realized that, as Justin Brennan just mentioned, that all this sewer system is old in our city. And we do need to invest on this sewer to make it cleaner and easier to have the water to flow out. Especially like we install the pumpers to make sure that all this water will go to the waterways. And also I realized that we have a lot of trash or leaves that are blocking the sewer. So we have to make sure that the sanitation will clean up all this trash, especially before the rainy season or during the rainy season. And we have to make sure like externally and internally to fix this problem. And I know that we have been cutting our budget because of the migrant crisis right here. I don't think we have enough funding to do these changes, but we definitely need to look into the budget if we could work on this in the future.
Thank you. Like I stated, that was the last question of the evening. Now each candidate will have 60 seconds for a closing statement, beginning with Ms. Adler. 60 seconds, please. Thank
Just
you.
when I was taking notes. Okay. Well, my opponent didn't show up tonight. So really, people only get to hear one side of things, my side of things. And I'm happy that everyone did get to hear what I had to say. But I think it's very important that no matter who you are, no matter what party you're in, that you hear everyone in the race. And it very much pains me that she didn't show up, even if I want to win, even if all these other things. I do think it's only fair to the people of the district to hear both sides. That being said, I'm going to show up every single day, and really every evening, because already I have my phone number with just about everyone in the district at this point. And that is how I'm going to run my office when I win this seat, God willing, on November 7th. And I do. Good call, thank you. Regardless, people matter to me, even when I don't agree with their opinions, even if we don't get along, even you matter to me. And you might not even be in my district, but you do. Because I love people, and that's why I'm running for.
That's time. Thank you.
That is why I'm running for city council, and I am going to help this district more
Councilmember
than
Brannan.
anyone else. Thank you.
Thank you. That's your time. Thank you. Councilmember Brannan, 60 seconds, please.
Thank you. Look, whether you vote for me or not, I work for you. That's my job. And my office,
Give him his 60 seconds, please. Thank you.
and probably one of my probably my number one hero in politics is former Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia, who famously said that there's no Democrat or Republican way to pick up the garbage. The job is just to get it done. My opponent does a good job at pointing at things and saying it's a problem, but doesn't actually get anything done. And it's important that taxpayers see a return on their investment, not only in investments in their community, but that the city government is working for them. This is your government, it's your tax dollars at work, and you need a council person who's going to be in the room where it happens to deliver for the district, because these things don't happen by accident. Even a $51 million infrastructure improvement in Diker Heights doesn't happen by accident. It happens with advocacy. An elevator at 95th Street or 86th Street doesn't happen on its own. It happens because you have a council member who's in the room and gets things done. And being a council member for the...
We're keeping
And being a
time.
council member for the neighborhood where I grew up is an honor of a lifetime, and I look forward to serving you for 2 more years.
That's your time. Thank you. Ms. Tan, your turn.
Okay. I'm not a professional politician right here. I'm here just because I have a good vision that we need to have a better future for everyone right here. I'm a mother. I'm also a caregiver for senior citizen. And I have been running a very grassroots campaign. I do a lot of door knocking to talking to the people right here and totally understand how you feel and what your concerns are, because I'm just one of you right here. I'm not a professional politician because I don't want to draw a nice picture for the future just like these politicians do. But I'm ensure you that once I'm elected, I will fight hard for you guys. And I will ensure that I will fight hard just like my life it depends on it. And we need young people like me, a grassroots person who really know the issue that you have and represent you in the city council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kagan, 60 seconds for your closing statement.
Thank you. I'm a little bit surprised that forum sponsored by ARP did not include questions about two most pressing crises of New York City, public safety and migrant crisis. I'm very surprised.
Let's listen, folks.
I'm very proud to be endorsed in this race by 4 major police unions. Whatever my opponent is saying, everybody knows that he voted to defund NYPD by $1 billion. Everybody knows that this year he voted again to allocate almost $40 million to create a civilian committee to release additionally 2,700 inmates from Rikers Island to make us even less safe. Everybody knows that he never opposed to migrant shelters in southern Brooklyn. I did, publicly, in Coney Island and in Bay Ridge. Doesn't matter where. I believe that migrant crisis is swelling.
Thank you. That's your time, council member. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.